in a sense, I don't really know how to get the words out, but I feel as though there's a bit of a lack of motivation, not just from me, but from a lot of people, just in general. Not just the people in the wrestling community. There's just like a lack of motivation, a lack of energy, a lack of passion that's been going on, and it obviously has to do with the pandemic. How people were panicking and they were going in circles, freaking out over what's to come, and then here we are now. We're a month and a half into this pandemic. We probably still got another 2 months, 3 months left of it. And everyone is just in a state of sadness and depression. And there was a period back in October of last year for 3 months where I completely stopped the brand because I was not in the right place and I just needed a break. I needed to relax. I needed to focus on what was more important. Then I came back, and now I'm feeling as though now I'm reliving that period that I was in 6 months ago, but it's not as bad as 6 months ago, but I just don't have any passion. I don't have any energy to actually do the videos, and I've been getting a lot of videos up. I've been keeping up to date with my college work. I've been doing everything that I would normally do, but the fact that it seems like we're reliving the same day over and over again, I think a lot of people are on the same page with me in the sense that the motivation, the energy, and the passion, it just isn't there. Especially after what happened on Wednesday and then the tragic events that were made public on Thursday with the death of Howard Finkel. I'm going to talk about the releases and what went on as far as that whole chaotic situation went when we get to the end of the LFU, but right now I do want to talk a little bit about Howard Finkel, and a lot of people have said the same thing. Undoubtedly the greatest ring announcer in the industry. I don't think there will ever be another Howard Finkel. The passion that he put forth in every single solitary announcement that he made, didn't matter what it was, everything that he did, everything that he said just stuck in your mind. And I remember there used to be a video game back in late 2010, I believe, called WWE All-Stars. I still had a PlayStation 2 at that time. I was big into wrestling video games at 11 years old, and I remember Howard Finkel was the voice of that video game. It was when the past meets the present, and they had the superstars. They looked like they were all juiced up on the video game, and they were doing all these crazy moves, flying all over the ring. Howard Finkel was the voice of that. I remember Howard Finkel always announcing the Hall of Fame inductions every single year at WrestleMania. It really does kill me that we're not going to hear that again. I remember when I got the network, my dad was showing me a lot of classical content of Howard Finkel announcing classic WWF. I remember on my Undertaker DVD, Tombstone, The History of the Undertaker, I remember one match was The Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan, and I remember Howard Finkel announcing The Undertaker coming out victorious against Hulk Hogan. I remember watching that for the first time when I was like 9 years old, and my dad showed me that DVD, and that was the first match off that DVD that I ever watched, and I heard Howard Finkel's voice. It's like just when you think 2020 can't get any worse, and then there's the death of Howard Finkel. My thoughts, my prayers, my deepest concerns, and my sympathies go out to the friends, the family, and everyone across the globe affected by the death of Howard Finkel. Someone that will undoubtedly go down in the history books as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time, when it came to his craft. I'm really not good with these types of speeches. I'm really not good with talking about someone's passing. It was a year this month that my grandfather passed away, and I still can't formulate words to describe how I felt in that moment. I can only hope that everyone affected by his death is okay, and I can only hope that they find the strength to make it through this difficult time. Howard Finkel will definitely be missed, and his legacy will live on in the history books forever. I'm going to try my best to get through this video. I'm going to continue doing what I do. I'm going to try and break everything down as far as wrestling goes for you guys to the best of my ability. I got a heated rant on the releases for the WWE. And Seth Rollins, apparently he can't keep his mouth shut. So I got a lot to say as far as that goes. Stick around till the end. I got 5 weekly show reviews this week, not 7. 205 Live and NXT UK. They're doing their best of XXXX. They're doing best of series on their respective shows. But all the other shows, they're carrying on with operations. So before we get started, you guys already know who I am. My name is Dominic, better known as DJ Storms. Thank you for tuning back into the channel. A couple things before we get started. Follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms, and add me on Facebook. All the links are in the description. I want you guys to go and like the official DJ Storms business page. Link is also in the description, and I may send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook as well. For collaborations and business inquiries, please send me an email at StormsTakeOver or StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Go check out Quarantine with Thunder Episode 3 and my Dark Side of the Ring review on Jimmy Snuka and the death of Nancy Argentino. Both links are in the description. And, of course, shout out to the Blue Riot. You can follow him on Twitter at Blue Riot with 2 T's. Him and me, we have been talking about AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite on his podcast, the Blue Riot Podcast. Go follow the podcast on Twitter at Blue Riot with 2 T's Pod. Subscribe to the podcast on all platforms where you find your local podcasts. I have the iTunes link in the description. I want you guys to go and check out episode 2 of the Blue Riot Storms review for AEW Darkamite, where we talked about this week's Dynamite and this week's Dark. We talked about Being the Elite as well, and the lead up to episode 200, where we will see Matt Jackson versus Nick Jackson. I have been having a blast doing the podcast with him, and I really do hope it's going to blow up this summer. I want you guys to hit that thumbs up, try and get this video to 15, 20 thumbs up as per usual. You guys have been doing great with the views and the likes. Been very, very consistent. Over 100 views, 20 plus thumbs up on every single video. We're on the road to 2K as well. Go and subscribe, comment down below. Hit the notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. You already know the rest. I don't need to make a dick out of myself and say all that. But you already know the drill. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the weekly show reviews here on the Lightning Flash Update. Monday Night Raw. I will say that they have done a better job at building towards Money in the Bank. It still wasn't an overly spectacular show. It still wasn't special. It still wasn't exciting, but it did have a lot more things that I could actually get behind, more so than the build-up towards WrestleMania, and we're going to go over that right now. McIntyre kicked off the show. Drew thanked the people at home for allowing them, aka the WWE, allowing him into their living room. Drew calls his Mania moment surreal, and he showed his win against the Big Show. Says that he's going to be a fighting champion before Andrade came out, Zelina Vega actually brought up the history that Andrade and Drew McIntyre had from NXT, where Andrade took the NXT title from Drew McIntyre and injured Drew McIntyre's arm in the process, tore his bicep right from the bone. Drew McIntyre eventually agrees to a match with Andrade, and Andrade says, "No more, Senor Nice Guy." So Drew McIntyre and Andrade, definitely something I can get behind. I like the callback towards NXT. It's definitely something that is sorely needed, calling back the past history of superstars to make sense of why superstars are calling out other superstars today. That's definitely something I can support. And hey, Drew McIntyre versus Andrade, it's definitely something I'm not going to complain about. I don't think anyone's going to complain about Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. Although I don't necessarily know why we're going to get champion versus champion when realistically Andrade and his next challenger should be determined already for Money in the Bank. And you're really going to have one of your champions lose. It doesn't really seem very logical to me. But regardless, Drew versus Andrade, I'm not really going to say too much negative material on that. We had 3 women's Money in the Bank qualifying matches, and I don't know why they're wasting them all on one night when you should realistically spread them out over the course of the next few weeks to really generate some intrigue. Next week, they're wasting 3 men's Money in the Bank qualifying matches on the same night when they should realistically spread it out, because we don't really need to see the stereotypical triple threat match between all the Raw competitors or all the SmackDown competitors, or all the old 6-man tag or the tag team match between all the Raw Money in the Bank competitors and all the SmackDown Money in the Bank competitors, the faces versus the heels on the men's and the women's side. We don't need to see that. So I would much rather them spread the qualifying matches over the course of the next few weeks to at least generate some interest for the shows to see who's going to qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. That's just me, though. Asuka versus Ruby Riott. It was a decent match. Not saying it was bad. It was a decent match. Made sense. But it wasn't anything special. There was a few sloppy moments in the match at certain points, which we'll go over right now. Ruby Riott was caught with a pop-up knee for a 2 by Asuka. Asuka with the sliding knee on the apron. Coming back from commercial, Ruby Riott with a kneeling bulldog, which looked sloppy as shit. I don't know what happened there. We had a Riott kick that was reversed into an ankle lock. German suplex and a Shining Wizard for a 2 by Asuka. We had a senton caught into the Asuka lock until Ruby reversed it. Ruby Riott was then caught with a huge kick, but reversed it into a modified Rings of Saturn, reversed it into the Asuka lock, and Ruby Riott taps out, and Asuka wins. So Asuka is going to Money in the Bank. Decent match, nothing special, nothing that we're going to scroll through the WWE Network and go back and rewatch however many weeks from now, but I was thinking to myself, a singles push for Asuka, it's pretty much apparent at this rate. If Kairi Sane loses to Nia Jax later on, then it's pretty much confirmed that Kairi Sane's on her way out and Asuka is back to being a singles competitor. Apparently, WWE wants us to forget the 1.5 years worth of shit treatment that Asuka went through, and apparently now they want us to take her seriously. I love Asuka, and I think that the Monday Night Raw women's division could really use an intense player, and Asuka is that intense player. I don't think she ever should have been placed in a tag team. That's just me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with me on that, but I don't think anyone's going to forget the piss-poor treatment that Asuka went through at the hands of Charlotte Flair, and then losing to Carmella twice, the antics with James Ellsworth, losing to Charlotte Flair again before WrestleMania 35. But anyway, Asuka's going to Money in the Bank. MVP had a VIP lounge, and MVP said that there'll be 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches next week. We're going to have Rey Mysterio versus Murphy. We're going to have Aleister Black versus Austin Theory. And we're going to have MVP versus Apollo Crews. And I can safely say that I am predicting Murphy, Black, and Crews to go over. Although I don't know why we need MVP on television. This is probably like the 5th time that he's retired as an in-ring competitor this year, only to come back. Swear to God, it's like The Undertaker. How many times has The Undertaker retired and then came back? Aleister Black versus Oney Lorcan. This only went about 8 minutes, but this was physical. This was physical. This was hard-hitting. Oney Lorcan, I would not want to be in the receiving end of Oney Lorcan's chops. The guy fucking bear palms you. It's brutal. So, Oney Lorcan was caught with a moonsault by Black for a 2. Lorcan and Black traded some intense strikes coming back from commercial. Black mounted a comeback. Oney Lorcan with a clothesline, turning Black inside out. Lorcan with the chops, but he was caught with a jumping knee and a Black mass for the win. These are the types of matches that is going to get Aleister Black over. Enough of these squash matches. You need to put Aleister Black in there with legitimate talent, and you need to have him win. This was a physical match for the short amount of time that it was. And as far as Money in the Bank goes, if I was WWE, I would give Aleister Black the Money in the Bank briefcase, to be quite honest with you. I know that I've said that Andrade would benefit the best from a match with Aleister Black, and Aleister Black taking the title off of Andrade would definitely benefit him. But if Aleister Black, realistically, I've stated Aleister Black is in top contention for a world title match, let alone a U.S. title match. Aleister Black has run through everyone that you've put in front of him. So if I was WWE, I would give the title of Mr. Money in the Bank to Aleister Black. You could really do a lot with that. You can have Kevin Owens win the WWE Championship from Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam towards the end of the year. You can have Aleister Black versus Kevin Owens. Aleister Black could cash in on Kevin Owens, and you can have Aleister Black go into WrestleMania 37 as the WWE Champion. I think that would work out very nicely, if you ask me. Becky Lynch came out, and she cut a promo. She returned from her match with Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania, which she still should have lost. I don't know how anyone could support Becky Lynch still being the Raw Women's Champion. Becky said her match at Mania was a battle of the mind more so than will. Becky said that only the Joker can get to the Queen to destroy her. And Becky says that whoever wins that briefcase, whoever wins that contract, she'll just have to shock the world one more time. Implying that if the winner of the briefcase should cash in on her, she'll have to shock the world one more time and beat them. This is a good promo. I'm not saying that it was bad, but at the end of the day, I cannot look at Becky Lynch the same. I can't take her seriously. She was made to look like a complete idiot at the start of the year. Her character is at the lowest point that it could possibly be at right now. All of her value has deteriorated. I've said that she realistically should have lost the title to Sasha at Hell in a Cell. They didn't do that. That opened the door for Shayna, and they didn't pull the trigger on Shayna. Becky Lynch right now, she is at a position where she either needs to go away after she loses the championship, or she needs to have a complete 180 and she needs to go heel. Her character is at the lowest point that you could possibly get. Her character is one of the most valueless characters on the main roster right now. She has outlived her usefulness as the Raw Women's Champion. It's done. Done. Sarah Logan versus Shayna Baszler. Sarah Logan was actually among the names that were released on Wednesday. I'm going to rant on that when we get to the end. Trust me. Baszler literally stomped out Logan's arm within 30 seconds, and Mike Rome announced Sarah Logan as the winner. I'm not sure if Sarah Logan won or it was a botch, but then the commentators came back from commercial and stated that Mike Rome did botch, and it was indeed Shayna Baszler that advanced to Money in the Bank. Shayna Baszler realistically should be champion right now, but since they didn't do that, now she's going to have to win Money in the Bank and cash in on Becky Lynch, because if she doesn't, then she's completely done, and no one's going to take her seriously from here on out. Unless you want to have Shayna Baszler go up against Becky Lynch after Money in the Bank. But at this rate, I don't even want to see that. I just want to see Shayna Baszler win the briefcase, cash it in on the same night, and get the title off of Becky Lynch. Please. Please. Seth Rollins was shown in the back, and he says that he lost to Kevin Owens at Mania, and once again his career has been crucified. This was not the last that we would see of Rollins. This was only the first of 4 times that we would see Rollins here on Raw. So it was short and sweet. I didn't mind it. I didn't know where it was going, but then by the second time, I kind of had an idea of where it was going. Akira Tozawa versus Austin Theory. This went about 9 minutes, and this was actually a fairly decent match, and I was actually very pleased that they actually gave these guys time. I thought this was going to be a quick 2-minute squash, but they actually gave Akira Tozawa some time here against Austin Theory, and it actually turned out to be a decent match. These are the types of matches that we need to see more of on Monday Night Raw. These are the types of matches that are going to make not only the superstars look better, but they're going to make the show that much more enjoyable. So we had Tozawa with a spin kick to Austin Theory. Austin Theory took over control with some mud stomps and mounted punches on Tozawa. Theory with the standing moonsault for 2. Tozawa with the Hurricane Rana takedown and then a cannonball off the apron. And Jerry Lawler actually coined it the ramen noodle moonsault, which was blown out of proportion by the WWE Universe on social media. Look, Jerry Lawler's a terrible commentator, don't get me wrong, but in no way, shape, or form was this racist in a way. I don't think Jerry Lawler even intended to come off racist. What I think is Jerry Lawler definitely associates certain nationalities and races with certain types of characteristics. The one thing that we can be mad about is that it wasn't even a moonsault. It was a rolling senton. But that was definitely blown out of proportion. Everyone's way too hypersensitive nowadays. So Austin Theory was then caught with a missile dropkick for a 2. Austin Theory then reversed the Iron Octopus stretch into the Austin Theory launch for the win, heading into his matchup against Aleister Black next week. And then Andrade, Garza, and Theory all attacked Tozawa after the match and stood tall. If this is going to be a legitimate faction, it almost feels like a business mafia faction with Zelina Vega managing these 3 hot young prospects. I actually would love to see this become a legitimate thing. It's a group that represents the future, and I think that if they want to, they could have a legitimate hostile takeover of Monday Night Raw. I have no problem with this. I would love to see more of these guys. So Rollins, he says he's still here. Your Messiah has truly risen. And that was the second time that we saw Rollins in the back, just sitting in the dark, or standing in the dark, cutting a promo. And by that time, I kind of had a bit of an idea of where it was going. And then by the third time, it seemed obvious. So Angel Garza had a match against Tahuti Miles. Garza's a fucking stud. Enough said there. Garza with the pop-up knee strike. Garza with a trio soccer kick to the gut of Tahuti Miles. And then the wing clipper for the win. And then Garza, Theory, and Andrade attacked Miles after the bell and did the same thing that they did to Akira Tozawa, further establishing themselves as a force to be reckoned with. I thought that these attacks really were well done. Garza has a bright future. I can't wait to see where Garza goes as far as the Monday Night Raw brand goes. I could definitely see Garza possibly breaking out and becoming a United States champion in the future. I don't think that we're going to be seeing Garza or Theory in the tag team title hunt anytime soon. I think that the Viking Raiders are going to be taking on the Street Profits, which I will talk about later on. But I like what they're doing with this faction so far, and I really do hope it does become a legitimate thing. Even though Austin Theory doesn't necessarily need to be on Monday Night Raw. He's 22 years old. He still needs to be in NXT. He's got a bright future in NXT. Matter of fact, he's got North American Champion written all over him. But I am liking what they're doing with this faction. Kairi Sane versus Nia Jax. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Nia Jax just tossed Kairi out of the ring. She hit the military press Samoan drop, called it the Annihilator, and Nia Jax is going to Money in the Bank. They actually did announce that all of Monday Night Raw's participants for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match have been determined, so there's only 3, which I actually don't mind. It actually makes the match a little bit more special, and it actually isn't as overbearing as 8 competitors. So 6 and 6, or 6 for the women and 6 for the men. I actually have no problem with that. I think that could actually work out a lot better, especially since they're doing it at the corporate Titan Towers up in Stanford now. But, well, what does it tell you? Kairi Sane loses in 3 minutes. Kairi Sane is gone. Kairi Sane is gone. Gone. Lost the titles, lost the rematch, lost to Nia Jax in 3 minutes. I'm actually surprised that Kairi Sane wasn't announced as one of the releases from WWE. I'm genuinely surprised that she wasn't announced as one of the releases from WWE on Wednesday. Kairi Sane, one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, former NXT Women's Champion, losing to a complete piss-poor excuse for a women's wrestler like Nia Jax. It's nothing new here. Nothing new here. Just goes to show you WWE doesn't give a shit about women's wrestling. Charlotte Flair came out to address her WrestleMania win. Talks about Rhea's challenge. Says that Rhea lacks humility. Yeah. Rhea lacks humility. Says that she's going to remind NXT of humility. Charlotte says she's here to teach lessons, and lesson number 1 is everyone bows down to the Queen. She's the NXT Women's Champion, but yet she is on Monday Night Raw. And then she was on NXT in an interview segment on Wednesday. I swear to God, if you're going to have Charlotte Flair on NXT and Monday Night Raw for however long she's champion, I swear, you may as well not even showcase women's wrestling at all. No one asked for Charlotte Flair on Raw and SmackDown. And if you did, you're the fucking problem. Charlotte Flair on both Raw and SmackDown. So what happens when she drops the NXT Women's Championship? Is that champion going to appear on Raw and NXT now? Aren't we supposed to be in the midst of a brand split? Ridiculous. Bobby Lashley versus No Way Jose. Lashley with the belly-to-belly suplex, pop-up spinebuster, and spear for the win. Who gives a shit? Rollins was showcased for a third time. Says that, "You've left me no alternative. Tonight I stomp out all doubt." Viking Raiders versus Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. This was actually a great match. Not even going to lie. I'm actually surprised that they put these two teams against each other this early. But if these are the types of tag team matches that we are going to see on Monday Night Raw from here on out, I am all for it. I have absolutely no problem with it. Matter of fact, I've stated before, just like the Akira Tozawa Austin Theory match, just like the Oney Lorcan and Aleister Black match, these are the types of matches that is going to make Monday Night Raw that much better. And the tag team division that much better. This is a great tag team match. Cedric with the suicide dive taking out Eric. Lion Salt to Ivar by Ricochet for a 2. Alexander with the tornado DDT to Ivar for a 2. Ricochet was actually tossed over the top rope onto Cedric. And then Ivar with the double suicide dive. Ivar was slammed onto Cedric by Eric. The modified body slam that the Viking Raiders usually do. Ricochet got the hot tag. We had a couple of enziguris to the Raiders. Springboard clothesline and a shooting star press for a 2. Ricochet was caught with a knee and then turned inside out with a clothesline by Ivar. Cedric kicked out of an aided hip attack. Ricochet broke up a pin off of a double team springboard clothesline German suplex combination by the Raiders. And then the Viking Raiders won after a sloppy Viking experience to Cedric. I don't know what happened there, but it was sloppy. It had zero impact. Great match, sloppy ending. Viking Raiders get the win, and I can definitely see the Viking Raiders going up against the Street Profits at Money in the Bank for the Raw Tag Team Championships. I think that would be a fun tag team match, and I think that would really solidify the Street Profits as legitimate tag team champions if they were to defeat a team like the Viking Raiders. Main event. Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. This only went 7 minutes. I don't understand what the purpose of this was. Now, it was a decent 7-minute back and forth between the two, but you're telling me you really couldn't have cut out Bobby Lashley and No Way Jose. You couldn't have cut out Becky Lynch's promo, and you couldn't have moved Nia Jax and Kairi Sane to next week to make time for Drew McIntyre and Andrade. Trust me, it would have made the show just a little bit better. How are you going to have Drew McIntyre and Andrade out there and only have them go 7 minutes? Not very good for your main event of Monday Night Raw. So Drew McIntyre with a headbutt to Andrade right out of the gate. Drew brought the fight to Andrade early. Andrade took advantage with a series of chops. He was working on the surgically repaired arm of Drew. Drew was able to mount a comeback with a diving clothesline. Drew actually launched Andrade into Theory and Garza over the top rope. Drew's foot was actually grabbed by Andrade. Drew actually gave us the LOL moment of the night. Drew McIntyre walked out after he back body dropped Andrade onto Theory and Garza. Drew McIntyre, you could clearly hear him say, "Who grabbed my foot? Was it you?" Picked up Theory and did his best Walter impersonation. Chopped the shit out of Austin Theory. Austin Theory sold the hell out of it. Turned his attention back to Andrade. Drew with the reverse Alabama slam and the Claymore for the win. Out of nowhere, Rollins' music hits. Garza distracted Drew. Rollins came out with a super kick, a stomp. He looked at the WWE title and then hit a second stomp on McIntyre to close out the show. Listen, I want to give this match a chance. I really do. I want to give it a chance because Rollins and Drew are great at what they do in the ring. And more likely than not, the match is going to be pretty good, but I can't. I can't for 3 reasons. Number one, we've seen this match 15 times throughout the latter half of 2018. 2, Rollins just lost. He lost to Kevin Owens. Why is he getting a world title match? 3, this match is 9 months too late. I stated this back on the Lightning Flash update on February 29th. This match should have been the Universal Championship match going into SummerSlam of last year, not Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre should have gone over Seth Rollins then. Now, they're attempting to revisit that. They're attempting to do that match 9 months later, but this time it's for the WWE Championship, not the Universal Championship, and the roles are reversed. It's not going to have the same impact as if it would have had at SummerSlam. It's not going to work. And I really don't want to hear the lame excuse of, there's no other heels to go up against Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Can someone please tell me where it is written in the wrestling rule book that a babyface world champion needs to defend against heels? Let me ask you a question here. Why isn't Edge in this position? Now, Edge is a fucking idiot in his own right after what he said on Corey Graves after the bell about the fans' criticism of his match at WrestleMania, but that's another story. I don't really want to get into a 15-minute rant on that. I do enough ranting on the show. Edge just beat Randy Orton in a last man standing match. Randy Orton has done everything in this business. He's a 13-time world champion, won every title there is to win, Money in the Bank winner, 2-time Royal Rumble winner, main evented WrestleMania. I don't know about you, but if I was to beat a guy like Randy Orton, I would say that that gives me enough legitimacy to challenge for the WWE Championship. Edge would be a perfect interim opponent for Drew McIntyre. That would be a great back and forth. That would be a nice dynamic. It would be something new. It would be something fresh. Or you could try this. What about Samoa Joe? Samoa Joe's suspension has been lifted. Fightful even said he was eligible to perform at WrestleMania. Why isn't Samoa Joe in this position? You could have Samoa Joe come out, and Drew McIntyre, he said he wants to be a fighting champion. You could have Samoa Joe come out, step up to Drew McIntyre. There you go. Kevin Owens, now though Kevin Owens does have momentum behind him, I don't think Kevin Owens is going to be in that position right now. I think Kevin Owens is going to be the SummerSlam opponent for Drew McIntyre. But regardless, putting Seth Rollins in there just because they have no heels, it's stereotypical. It's such a stereotypical WWE route, and it makes no sense. How is anyone supposed to take Seth Rollins seriously in a world title match when he just lost to Drew McIntyre? Again, and again, as I stated, 9 months too late. Drew McIntyre should have been world champion well before WrestleMania 36. This should have been the matchup at SummerSlam for the Universal Championship. They didn't do that. They didn't do that for whatever reason. Not my problem. I want to give them a chance, but based on those reasons, I can't. Not a bad show, just nothing overly exciting. AEW Dark, this wasn't anything special either. It only had one match. It wasn't an academic squash match, but It wasn't special. We had a decent match between Billy Gunn and Shawn Spears. It really didn't do anything. Wasn't special. It really wasn't overly exciting. It served a purpose, which was to get Shawn Spears a win, which I can get behind. But it's nothing that we're going to go back and watch on their YouTube channel. So, Spears got caught on the top turnbuckle. Billy Gunn with a right hand for a 1 count on Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears is on the receiving end of a huge lariat. Spears was able to reverse the Famouser. We had a super kick and then face breaker onto the knee for a 2 on Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn was able to hit a modified end of days move, and Cody Rhodes actually coined it a pendulum effect flatliner, which was actually very nice. Billy Gunn was able to hit the Famouser, but Shawn Spears rolled out of the way. Shawn Spears rolled out of Billy Gunn's Stinger Splash in the corner, then hit the C4 for the win. Decent match, nothing special. I'm glad it got Shawn Spears a win, and that was pretty much it. Moving on to Dynamite. I really don't want to shit all over Dynamite because they've been doing some good stuff, but this was not a good episode of Dynamite. I'm sorry. Realistically, the only good show this week for wrestling was NXT. But the empty arena vibe, it really is killing the momentum. It's killing the energy. It's killing the intensity of the Dynamite shows, especially since it's taped. We got a couple decent matches. We got a decent TNT Championship quarterfinal match. We got a decent match between Kip Sabian and Chuck Taylor. But outside of that, it was an incredibly missable show. Especially that main event. That main event sucked. That main event sucked. I'm sorry. If you're telling me that main event was even halfway decent, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. You're not being truthful with the people that you're talking to. Whether you're just a simple fan on social media that tweets about wrestling, or post about wrestling on Facebook, or you have a podcast, or you have a Twitch, or you have a YouTube channel. If you're telling me that this match is even halfway decent, you're lying to yourself. You got to be honest. This match was not good. The match was not good. I'll talk about that later, but let's talk about the beginning of the show, which was the TNT Championship quarterfinal match between Colt Cabana and Lance Archer. So Lance Archer actually punched out a wrestler in the crowd during his entrance, which was great. I laughed my ass off at that. That was actually one of the best parts of the night. So Colt Cabana was using his quickness against Archer. Colt Cabana was able to kick out of a big full Nelson slam. We had a spinning splash out of the corner by Lance Archer for a 2. We had a head scissor takedown, hip attack, and big splash by Colt Cabana for a 2. Colt Cabana was on the receiving end of a brutal pounce and a choke slam. And then Lance Archer hit the blackout for the 1, 2, 3. Good match. Short, effective, and Lance Archer is looking like one of the most legitimate superstars in AEW. In 3 short weeks, he is looking as legitimate as ever. And let me tell you something. By the end of it, he's going to be in the World Championship title picture sooner than you think. The TNT Championship is his when this tournament is over. We had Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Cassandra Golden, and Britt Baker did nothing but stomp Golden's teeth into the ropes the same way that she did to Yuka Sakazaki for the 1, 2, 3. That was it. Quick in and out. We had the segment of the night, the Bubbly Bunch, with the Inner Circle. So PNP, Proud and Powerful, they were trashing the Young Bucks. They were trashing Matt Hardy. We had Sammy Guevara getting into it, saying that, Matt Hardy, he's calling him a fake Latino, so he kept on punching the punching bag, kept on saying Cinco, 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 which was hilarious. Jake Hager was in the mix. Said that he's going to beat the shit out of Jon Moxley. Jericho was making breakfast. He actually spilled some orange juice, and then in the next scene, the spill was gone. So Jericho told his assistant after the call ended between the Inner Circle that he needs more toilet paper. So that was pretty much that. We had Shug D versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara actually V-triggered the shit out of Shug D. And I'm telling you, like, this V-trigger was fucking nasty. Like, I would not be surprised if Shug D, Pineapple Pete, that's what Jericho calls him, I would not be surprised if he had a legitimate concussion after that match. It looked brutal. Sammy with the stalling Samoan drop, and then he hit the burning GTS for the win. He then took the microphone and said that next week, TNT Championship Tournament, spoiler alert, he says that Sammy Guevara beats the shit out of Darby Allin. He then went to attack Shug D again, and Darby Allin came out to save Shug D. We then had a match between Kip Sabian and Chuck Taylor. One line, though, that I absolutely laughed my ass off at from Jericho is the fact that he said, you know, the best friends, they are on a winning streak here. They could possibly get a tag team title opportunity against Pumpkinhead Omega and Tipsy in Tennessee Hangman. If Tipsy in Tennessee Hangman is not a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees in the next few months, I'm going to be severely disappointed. I'm telling you, I really am. So, we had Chuck Taylor with an elbow drop for a 2. Taylor with an X-Plex on the apron to Sabian, which actually looked pretty brutal. Sabian looked like he landed on his neck. Sabian with a springboard drop kick for a 2. Chuck Taylor with a Meishinuku driver on Kip. Chuck Taylor with the pop-up powerbomb for a 2 on Kip Sabian. Chuck reversed the DDT that Kip Sabian does, the springboard DDT, reversed it into Soul Food, and then Orange Cassidy got involved. Penelope Ford also got involved. You know, they were teasing Chuck Taylor, you know, doing the flirtatious things to Chuck Taylor, and then Orange Cassidy did the flirtatious thing to Kip Sabian. Jimmy Havoc then got involved. He took out Cassidy. Ford took out Chuck Taylor with a Hurricane Rana, and then a roll-up by Sabian later, and Sabian gets the win ahead of his TNT Championship Tournament match against Dustin Rhodes next week. Fun match. Fun match. None too crazy, but it was fun. And next week, we actually got Jimmy Havoc versus Orange Cassidy. Although I don't really understand the partnership between Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, just because they're both Englishmen. Shawn Spears versus Justin Law. Academic match. Shawn Spears hit the C4 for the 1, 2, 3. Shawn Spears gets another win. Definitely glad that he's back on the right track and they're starting to utilize him more. I think that he's much more valuable in the singles division than he is in the tag team division. And I would definitely love to see him in the TNT Championship title hunt by the end of the year. A lot of academic matches on this show, nothing really too special. That's what really brought the show down a bit. So next week we have Sabian versus Dustin Rhodes. We got Brody Lee in action. We got Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. And we got Kenny Omega in action. Then we had Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager for the AEW World Championship in an empty arena, no holds barred match. Listen, Jake Hager and Jon Moxley, they're both great. I love Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley is a headliner in any promotion across the globe. Jake Hager's very underrated. He can go with the best of them. He's very underappreciated. But this match, I swear, I was getting Edge and Randy Orton vibes from this match. And a lot of people, not just me, a lot of people across social media and a lot of people in the community were saying the exact same thing. It's like they didn't even scratch the surface off of what they can do. It's like how I said that Edge and Orton were held back. It's like these two were held back. For the first 15 minutes of this match went 30 minutes as opposed to 40, but this match went about 30 minutes, and the first 15 minutes was them literally just throwing each other into the stands and throwing each other around on the outside. The slow, methodical pace of this match really hurt it. And on top of that, it's a no-holds-barred match, but yet the only weapon introduced in this match is a steel chair. Cody and Shawn Spears got more extreme in a regular match last week on Dynamite than Hager and Moxley did in a no-holds-barred match. No tables, no kendo sticks, no ladders, no trash cans, no chains, no creativity. It just seems like they just threw this out there and expected people to care. And it really does suck because I was actually looking forward to this match, and I was looking forward to seeing how they would book this, but they didn't even go all the way. They didn't do anything to make it exciting. And it sucks. I was actually looking forward to this match. I was very much interested to see what they would do. I was definitely behind Jake Hager's character. That was a character that I could definitely see as a world champion in the future. I love Jon Moxley, but this was jack shit. I'm sorry. It wasn't good. Moxley sent Hager over the security railing. They started brawling into the stands. We had a figure four around the steel railing in the stands. Back in the ring, we had a running knee on Hager. Gut-wrench powerbomb by Hager for a 2. Moxley with a huge clothesline. Hager with a steel chair. Wedged it into the corner. Moxley went headfirst into the chair for a 2, which actually looked sloppy. He didn't even look like he hit the chair. We had an ankle lock by Hager. Moxley shouting, "Break my fucking ankle," before Moxley reversed it. Hit a paradigm shift on the chair to retain. Very, very, very disappointing main event. I was not a fan of this whatsoever. And to be quite honest with you, if you were a fan of this, I'm sorry, your standards are low. Your standards are very low. And I don't really have any respect for you in that regard. I don't really care if I come off as an insensitive prick. This is the type of shit that needs to be said. Because no one else is going to say it. Not a good episode of Dynamite whatsoever. And I can only hope they bounce back next week. NXT was actually a fairly good show. We had a lot of material that I could actually invest my time in on NXT. And to be quite honest, if there was one show that I would have chosen to watch, only one, I would have chosen NXT this week. So we had a match between Finn Balor and Fabian Aichner to kick off the show. Aichner was in control with a brutal tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Finn Balor in the beginning portions of this match. Balor with a double stomp. Aichner with a one-armed powerbomb. We had Aichner sending himself over the steel steps as Balor moved out of the way. They were planning on doing the same running knee strike against the steps that they did a few weeks back. We had a sling blade to Bartel and then a drop kick to Bartel, sending him into the barricade. Shotgun drop kick, coup de grace, and 1916 for the win on Fabian Aichner. Decent match to kick off the show. Finn Balor sends a message to Walter. I cannot wait to see this match after this entire pandemic is over. This is one match, this is one thing I am looking forward to the most after this entire chaotic situation with COVID-19's over. I cannot wait to see Finn Balor versus Walter. Charlotte Flair, here's the channel changer for you. Charlotte Flair had the Queen's speech. Says that no one in WWE backs up their words like her. No. You see, no one in WWE is as privileged as you. No one in WWE is backed up by WWE management as much as you when it comes to the women's division. It's not your words that back you. It's not you backing up your words. It's management backing you up because you have a famous last name. Charlotte says she's going to dominate all 3 different eras, the past, the present, and the future. She's going to dominate the best women's division in WWE. The NXT Women's Championship, realistically, the NXT Women's Championship, it's supposed to represent a symbol of opportunity. It's supposed to represent a symbol of opportunity, yet here it is in the hands of a woman who realistically should not win another championship so long as she is employed in the WWE. Good job, WWE. You have the NXT Women's Championship, a symbol of opportunity for the women that will ultimately be mistreated and ruined on the main roster. Unless, of course, you're Alexa Bliss or Bayley or Charlotte herself. NXT Women's Championship's in the hands of the most privileged, the most overprivileged women in WWE history. I would even go so far as to say that the favoritism towards Charlotte Flair, it is even worse than the Fabulous Moolah. And that shit was bad. But this, I have never seen a singular company just give so much to one woman. I have never seen a singular company, a singular wrestling company, such blatant favoritism for one woman over everyone else because they think that she is a draw, she's either a draw, or that just because that she has a famous last name, that she needs to achieve all of these things within 6 years of her career. 6 years. Charlotte Flair has been employed by WWE for 6 years, and she is already a 12-time women's champion, headlined WrestleMania, main evented WrestleMania, won the first ever women's Hell in a Cell, won the women's Royal Rumble, ended Asuka's undefeated streak. I would not even be surprised if she wins Money in the Bank next year for the women. When is enough enough? When's enough enough? Are you telling me? And on top of that, the woman's a fucking dumbass. Woman's a fucking dumbass trying to tell the crowd, trying to tell everyone that she needed to win more than Rhea Ripley. Are you serious? Are you out of your fucking mind? What story was there with that matchup at WrestleMania? You really think that was the plan? WWE literally promised Charlotte Flair the Women's Royal Rumble, and they went into that match with no plan whatsoever. They had Charlotte Flair go in there, win the Royal Rumble, and then afterwards, they decided to insert Rhea Ripley into it, try and mask the fact that they made a shitty decision, and everyone would automatically forgive them if they do a dream match between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. And then on top of that, now you give her the championship because you think that she's actually going to draw ratings for NXT to beat out All Elite Wrestling. Meanwhile, the main reason why All Elite Wrestling has lost to NXT twice in the ratings is because you had a takeover card on April 8th to combat AEW, and they only won by 1,000 viewers. And now this week was simply because of the fact that the taped format for AEW and that shitty main event between Hager and Moxley ultimately was the downfall, and NXT got the upper hand. It had nothing to do with Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair ain't never gonna draw jack shit for NXT, no matter what you think. Just look at the evidence that happened before WrestleMania. Ratings were down. And I said this before. The main question that we need to ask here is, how long is Charlotte Flair going to hold that title? How long? How long do we have to suffer through Charlotte Flair? And if so, are we really going to have to suffer through Charlotte Flair on both NXT and Monday Night Raw? I might as well cancel watching NXT and Monday Night Raw altogether. But I'm not going to do that because I have notes to take and I got content to get up. I got shows to review because I know that there are a lot of people out there that watch these shows and want my expertise analysis on it. I'm merely watching these shows because I need to write down these notes and I want to analyze it and get the content out. Especially during this time where I'm home and I have all the time in the world to get all the content out possible. How many women is Charlotte Flair going to stampede through before we finally get someone deserving of that championship? And I pitched this on the Rewind for WrestleMania. I would not be surprised if Charlotte Flair holds that title going into WrestleMania 37 just so they could get another NXT Women's Championship match on the show. Only this time it'll be in front of actual people at an actual WrestleMania and not a piss poor excuse for WrestleMania like what we got this year. I would not be surprised. The moment that Charlotte Flair loses that championship, the better. Or the sooner that Charlotte Flair loses that championship, the better. And the moment that she does, I am going to be jumping for joy. How do you fuck up the best women's division in the world? You put Charlotte Flair on there as champion. Speaking of the women, we had a women's match between Aaliyah and Xia Li. Very academic. Xia Li wins with the corkscrew kick. We had the start of the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. We had some Block B, or Group B, action between Isaiah Swerve Scott and Akira Tozawa. I still don't know why there's a need for a Cruiserweight Championship interim tournament, especially since Jordan Devlin just defended it against Travis Banks about a month ago. Meanwhile, Walter and Kaylee Ray, they didn't defend their titles for almost 5 months on NXT UK. but yet they weren't stripped of the championships. There wasn't a tournament to crown a new champion or an interim champion during that time. That was before this pandemic even began. They weren't stripped of their championships, but Jordan Devlin is stripped of his. Meanwhile, he's defended the Cruiserweight Championship the same amount of times that Kaylee Ray has defended her NXT UK Women's Championship. Jordan Devlin has defended the championship the same time as Kaylee Ray in 3 months. Meanwhile, Kaylee Ray has held the championship for 7 months, and her and Jordan Devlin have the same amount of title defenses. But yet, Kaylee Ray wasn't stripped of hers, and Jordan Devlin's being stripped of his. Doesn't really make any sense. A little logic would be nice. But this was a good match. This was actually probably the best match of the night here between Swerve and Tozawa. Scott was caught with a punt kick by Tozawa, sending him to the outside. We had a botched Hurricane Rana where Swerve didn't even get his legs on Tozawa's head in order to fling him off the apron, and Tozawa pretty much flung himself off the apron. But outside of that one botch, they did recover from it. We had a cannonball off the apron by Tozawa. Missile drop kick for 2. Scott with the deadlift German suplex and a house call, but Tozawa kicked out. Tozawa with the spin kick and the diving senton for the win. Tozawa gets the first win here in the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. Tegan Nox versus Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel Gonzalez is terrible. Just pointing that out there. So Gonzalez was using her size and power to remain in control before Shotzi Blackheart came out to attack Dakota Kai, and Tegan Nox rolled up Gonzalez for the win. And that was it. Next week, we got a tag team match between Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai, and Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox. We had a mini documentary for Keith Lee, which was actually very, very well done. Keith Lee, he talked about getting kicked out of his house, talked about the 13 years that he was told no, or you're too big, or you don't move the way that a guy your size should move, until he finally got to NXT, talked about winning the North American Championship, and said that grinding and overcoming is what it means to be limitless. I like this. And this is definitely going to get people more invested in Keith Lee. I think that they have been doing Keith Lee very, very well since the start of the year. And I think that they are going to continue to do Keith Lee very well in 2020. As far as who takes the North American title off of Keith Lee, I do not know. I do not know. I could definitely see Damian Priest doing it. I could definitely see Dexter Lumis possibly doing it once Dexter Lumis gets some more wins behind him. Cameron Grimes is another one, even though he just lost, but I definitely do want to see Cameron Grimes in a championship title picture soon. So we had Dexter Lumis versus Tahuti Miles. Dexter Lumis and that 1,000-yard stare is excellent material. And I'm telling you, if we had a crowd, the reaction to Dexter Lumis would only enhance his character. And I cannot wait till we get a crowd back to finally get reactions for a guy like Dexter Lumis. So we had a big spine buster by Lumis. Head and arm triangle trap for the win. And that was it. So Adam Cole was shown in his house in Panama City. Says that we should protect our reality. And the reality is that nobody deserves a shot at his title. And we don't even know when the match is going to take place between him and Velveteen Dream. I thought it was going to take place on April 8th, but it didn't. Now, I feel as though they're trying to wait a bit to see if we can get these mass gatherings back. If we can get these mass gatherings back, and Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole could be placed in front of an audience, and Velveteen Dream could win the championship then. We'll see what happens. See what happens. I can only hope that we are going to get it in front of an audience, because I don't want to see Velveteen Dream win the NXT title in front of nobody. But we'll see what happens. So Velveteen Dream, he came out and called out Adam Cole for no-showing the Dream and playing video games, fancying himself the mastermind of the UE. Dream is then interrupted by Balor after Dream called Cole the greatest NXT champion of all time. Balor says that he doesn't know the Dream and he hasn't said a word to him, but he did take exception to not being called the greatest NXT champion of all time. The Dream then challenged Balor to a match, and it was made for next week. So next week, we also have 3 matches from the interim NXT Cruiserweight Tournament. El Hijo del Fantasma versus Jack Gallagher, Drake Maverick versus Jake Atlas, and Tony Nese versus Kushida, all taking place next week. So Matt Riddle was set to defend the NXT Tag Team Championships against Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish, and Pete Dunne chose Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher, I have not heard of him. This was my first time seeing him, and I can definitely tell you that he is as intense as ever. A little bit too green for me, a little bit too stereotypical for me, but I think that Timothy Thatcher will definitely grow on me as time goes on. So Timothy Thatcher with some joint manipulation, Thatcher and Riddle with a double gut wrench suplex combination. Dexter Lumis was actually shown in the shadows watching this match. I don't even know why, but I thought it was fantastic. If we do get a little feud between Dexter Lumis and Timothy Thatcher, I definitely wouldn't mind that. So Riddle made the tag to Thatcher. We had belly to bellies to both men. Riddle with a spear to Fish. Thatcher caught Strong in a Fujiwara armbar, and Strong taps out. Good tag team championship match. Really nothing too overly exciting, and Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher retained the NXT Tag Team Championships in place of Pete Dunne. Tommaso Ciampa was shown in the back in a dark room, and he says that he's done with Johnny and he's done with Candice, and he then admitted that Johnny was the better man. Out of nowhere, 2 hands wrapped around Tommaso Ciampa's waist. It's like a fucking zombie coming up from quicksand, wrapped around Tommaso Ciampa's waist, and German suplexed him off of the crate that he was sitting on. The camera fell down, and you just hear these grunts and moans of Tommaso Ciampa being thrown into the material and steel pipes around him. Then Tommaso Ciampa's face falls right in front of the camera. Then you see boots. You see these long boots that strippers wear, in a way. And these long boots with the long shoelaces, the high heels, and that was Scarlett Bordeaux, in case you didn't know. Scarlett Bordeaux's boots were shown right in front of Tommaso Ciampa's face, and then out of nowhere, Killer Kross, with his face right by Tommaso Ciampa's ear, whispers "tick-tock" in Tommaso Ciampa's ear, and that's how NXT goes off the air. Killer Kross couldn't have debuted in any better of a way. Killer Kross could not have debuted in any better of a way. This was excellent. This was great. And let me tell you something. If there is anyone that you want to have Killer Kross feud with right out of the gate, it's Tommaso Ciampa. You can tell that Triple H has heavy faith in Killer Kross if he is putting Killer Kross against Tommaso Ciampa as his first feud in NXT. Killer Kross is definitely going to be something. This I can't wait for. And I pray to God, I'm praying to God that we get a crowd by the next TakeOver, because they cannot have this match in front of no crowd. Killer Kross and Tommaso Ciampa is a war waiting to happen, and they need a crowd for it. They need it. I can't wait to see this, but they need a crowd. Overall, very good episode of NXT. Realistically, the only show, if we're being quite honest here, that we can really go back and watch that was actually bearable. No NXT UK this week. They're doing the Best of NXT UK series over the course of the next few weeks, since they do not have any tapings in Europe. SmackDown. We had a few decent material. We had a couple of decent matches. We had somewhat decent material on SmackDown Live, but by the end of it, by the end of it, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? It was pretty much the same bullshit that we're always accustomed to at SmackDown Live. Like, the show started off with Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman on a moment of bliss. So right out of the gate, they're giving us a reason to change the channel. Swear to God. What do you want me to say about this segment? Strowman came out as a guest. He talked about his upcoming Universal Championship match at Money in the Bank against Bray Wyatt. Says the only thing that Bray Wyatt will get is these hands. There was a present behind Bliss. Braun took it, he opened it, and it was the old black sheep mask from the Wyatt family, and then Wyatt's laugh was heard. You want my thoughts on this segment? I got 4. Get the title off of Strowman. Get Nikki Cross away from Alexa Bliss. Get rid of the women's tag team titles. Get rid of Alexa Bliss, period. You want my thoughts on that? There's my thoughts. There are 4 ways right there to make SmackDown a hell of a lot better. I swear to God, I cannot wait till the day that Nikki Cross finally gets the fuck away from Alexa Bliss. I cannot wait. There was one thing that did stick out. WWE's advertising Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt. Not the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Just Bray Wyatt, as in Mr. Rogers' version of Bray Wyatt. I don't know about you. I don't know if you were thinking this, but I'm a bit apprehensive. I'm a bit apprehensive because I know this company, and I really wouldn't put it past this company to have Braun Strowman go in there against Bray Wyatt, Mr. Rogers' version of Bray Wyatt, and not the Fiend, and have him beat Mr. Rogers' version of Bray Wyatt, and then the fucking idiots of this community will be like, oh, but the Fiend didn't lose, man. Mr. Rogers' version of Bray Wyatt, he's the one that took the pinfall against Braun Strowman back at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. That would be just as worse, if not worse, than having the Fiend lose to Braun Strowman. The Fiend's already ruined after what happened with Goldberg. If you want to just completely kill off the Bray Wyatt character, you can have Bray Wyatt go in there and lose, whether it be Fiend or not. If Bray Wyatt walks out of Money in the Bank in any other possible way other than Universal Champion, it's over for him. You may as well just send Bray Wyatt along with the 30 other employees that you released on Wednesday. Bray Wyatt gets back the title no matter what. Bray Wyatt cannot go into the summer of 2020 without the Universal title. You need to right the fucking wrong that you did at Super Showdown. Put the Universal title back on him. Braun Strowman is a waste of space. Braun Strowman belongs in catering. Braun Strowman belongs down in the South chopping wood like the lumberjack that he is. Moving on. Sasha Banks versus Tamina. Tamina at least fucked up 3 times before the commercial break. I barely even paid attention to this match, but it was very noticeable, the fuck-ups by Tamina. The only thing I remember from this match is that Lacey Evans came out, dove off the steps with a huge forearm taking out Bayley, and Tamina super kicked Sasha 3 times for the win. Tamina beat Sasha Banks. Yes, Tamina beat Sasha Banks. Listen, I am all for having this storyline between Bayley and Sasha continue, and I have absolutely no problem with what they're doing. I think they're continuing it very nicely. I think they're continuing the storyline of Bayley treating Sasha like a piece of trash very well, and I think that when Sasha eventually turns on Bayley, it's going to be very well done. But you really couldn't find literally anyone else to go up against Sasha Banks and or Bayley? You really couldn't find anyone else other than Mini-Me, Nia Jax, Tamina Snuka? Tamina Snuka can barely move, let alone execute a wrestling move. How are you going to expect her to put on a SmackDown Live Women's Championship match against Bayley at Money in the Bank? How is anyone supposed to take her seriously as a babyface? How is anyone supposed to take her seriously, period? Just going to show you how shit the SmackDown Live Women's Division is. At least Monday Night Raw actually has talent. They got Liv, they got Asuka, they got Ruby Riott, they got Becky, even though her character sucks. They got Shayna. So at least they have somewhat of a talented division, but they're still pushing Nia fucking Jax. You take a look at SmackDown, and I've said this numerous amounts of times, outside of Naomi, Bayley, and Sasha, the SmackDown Live Women's Division is one of the worst, if not the worst, women's division in the entire wrestling industry. Tamina Snuka beating Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is still the biggest fucking idiot on the face of this planet for signing a new deal with this company, no matter if we eventually get the Sasha and Bayley match at SummerSlam. And now apparently Sasha Banks is getting a Money in the Bank qualifying match against Lacey Evans next week. I don't know about you, but I'm just as apprehensive for that as I am for Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. You're going to have Lacey Evans in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. If Lacey Evans beats Sasha, how many championship matches is this for Lacey Evans in a year? What is this, like 6 championship opportunities? But yet Ember Moon had to wait 17 fucking months for her first championship opportunity at SummerSlam of last year! The blatant favoritism in WWE pisses me off. The blatant favoritism in WWE is disgusting. Realistically speaking, Sasha Banks, she could very well win the Money in the Bank briefcase. And then, after Bayley's poor treatment, she could turn around and say, fuck you, Bayley, I'm cashing in my Money in the Bank contract on you, and she could win the title. But I don't think WWE is going to go that route, because realistically, that's way too logical, and that's way too creative. No, see, that's a good idea. That's a good creative decision. And when has WWE ever gone with a good creative decision on the main roster? If I was to pick anyone to win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, I'm going with Shayna. And even then, I still don't have faith in WWE that they're going to have Shayna win that match. Sheamus versus Denzel Dejournette. Bro kick for the win. And then Sheamus actually got in Michael Cole's face for talking about Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy and his career, Chapter 2, The Fall, that was highlighted after the Sheamus and Michael Cole segment, which I actually have news on why they're highlighting Jeff Hardy's career once we get to the news, rumors, and reports section. Carmella and Dana Brooke versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the Women's Tag Team Championships is apparently next week, yet Carmella and Dana Brooke have done nothing to earn a Women's Tag Team title opportunity, but yet we're getting that next week. Dana Brooke versus Naomi. Money in the Bank qualifying match. Dana Brooke caught with a drop kick for a 2. Dana, she wore down Naomi until Naomi mounted a comeback, a series of kicks, and a springboard enziguri. Dana was caught with the rear view for a 2. Dana Brooke rolled up Naomi for the win. Yes, Dana Brooke defeated Naomi. Dana Brooke is going to Money in the Bank. If WWE has shown you one thing over the course of the last 5 days, it's that they do not give a single shit about women's wrestling. Nia beats Kairi, Tamina beats Sasha, Dana beats Naomi. Listen, I do not want to be a prick. I would never call for anyone to lose their jobs, or I would never call for anyone's termination. I would not want anyone to be in a position where they won't be able to financially support themselves. But what does it tell you? What does it tell you that they released Deonna Purrazzo, but yet they kept Nia Jax, Tamina, and Dana Brooke? What does it tell you that they released Lio Rush, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows, and Eric Young, and Rusev, and Aiden English, but yet they kept Braun Strowman, yet they kept Jinder Mahal, Bobby Lashley, and the Iconics, fucking Lacey Evans? What does it tell you? In WWE, looks over talent. Looks over talent. In WWE, unless you have a famous last name, if you don't look like you are in the toy section at Walmart, or you're not a jacked up steroid muscle man, WWE doesn't give a shit about you. Dana Brooke going over Naomi. Dana Brooke is undoubtedly one of the most worthless. She's worthless. Worth just about as much as the lint in my back pants pocket. Yet she is going over Naomi, and she is in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I feel bad for Naomi. I really do. Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville came out to explain the situation on Valentine's Day to Mandy. Says that it's always been about fire and desire. Mandy eventually came out. And Sonya said that she was the most, as in Mandy is the most selfish person that she has ever met. Sonya says that Mandy was so focused on Otis and not fire and desire. It's always been about Mandy. Sonya came out to Mandy's entrance music. They were promoting Mandy's magazines, and her face was blurred out in the entrance so she couldn't even see her. She was playing second fiddle to the Golden Goddess. She said she almost gagged, but Mandy would know a lot about gagging since she's been hanging around Otis for the last couple weeks. That was fucking brutal right there. I was like, oh shit, it got real now. She says that she worked so hard, but she was always overshadowed by Mandy, called her a blonde manufactured in a lab, and said that she's done playing second fiddle to her. This was an excellent promo by Sonya Deville. And let me tell you something. This promo made me believe that Sonya Deville could actually be taken seriously as a top contender in a women's division where they are desperately in need of legitimate women's wrestlers. Sonya Deville, she's very underrated, and I think that if she applies this intensity and passion to her in-ring work, we could be really singing Sonya Deville's praises. This is definitely something I can get behind. Excellent promo from Sonya Deville. She hit every possible point that she could possibly hit, and I think that this is definitely going to help Sonya Deville going forward, and it's definitely going to help the women's division if they play their cards right. So Ziggler came out, says that he made a mistake. Mandy shoved him away. Sonya punched out Mandy. Otis came out, took out Ziggler, and he and Mandy stood tall. And that was that. We had a Forgotten Sons promo. And I need to ask, why are they on SmackDown? Why are they on SmackDown? I swear, this honestly reminds me of when Apollo Crews got called up to the main roster after WrestleMania 32. They are the Apollo Crews of 2020. Called up way too early. Why are they on SmackDown when A, they barely even got started in NXT, they barely even made a dent in NXT, B, SmackDown already has a stacked tag team division. They're just not utilizing it correctly. They got the New Day, they got the Usos, they got Miz and Morrison, they got Heavy Machinery, Lucha House Party, Ziggler and Rude. They already got a tag team division. Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura is there. They got a tag team division. They're just not utilizing it correctly. If you already have a tag team division, utilize it correctly. SmackDown probably has the best tag team division in the WWE right now. Maybe NXT UK is one to be argued, but I'm not talking about NXT UK. I'm just talking about between NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, excluding NXT UK. SmackDown probably has the best tag team division in the WWE. They're just not utilizing it correctly. And 3, NXT is in desperate need of tag teams. All you got is the Broserweights. You got UE. You got Indus Sher now, who was just introduced. You got Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. Why not keep the Forgotten Sons there? You need to build a legitimate tag team division in NXT. You're not going to get anywhere with the Forgotten Sons on SmackDown Live. It legitimately feels like they just called them up for the sake of calling them up with no plans. And you already know how that worked out for Andrade, for Sanity, for the Iconics when they got called up after WrestleMania 34 in 2018. I'd like to hope that they have something for him, but I don't have any faith in WWE. Cesaro and Daniel Bryan. This is actually a fairly decent match here. Money in the Bank qualifying match. We had Daniel Bryan with a suicide dive taking out Cesaro before the hacker that showcased what happened with Sonya and Mandy came up on the screen and says that everyone will hear the truth. I don't know who this is. I don't know if it's Mustafa Ali or not. We'll figure it out. Cesaro with the backbreaker to Daniel Bryan. Bryan with the yes kicks. Cesaro caught a roundhouse kick right to the back of the head, but he kicked out. Cesaro caught Bryan coming off the top. Bryan caught him in the yes lock, and Cesaro tapped out. Cesaro taps out to Bryan. Bryan is going to Money in the Bank. Just a little side note, I don't really know how I feel about Money in the Bank taking place on top of WWE headquarters. I feel as though it's a disaster waiting to happen. It's something new, it's something innovative, I'll give them credit there, but I don't know. It just seems like a disaster waiting to happen for me. Elias, he was on his way to the ring before King Corbin attacked him. Corbin then dragged Elias around the backstage area. Says he's going to make an example out of Elias, and he smashed the guitar over Elias. And that was pretty much it. I don't even know why this feud is even continuing after WrestleMania when no one wanted to see these guys fight before WrestleMania, let alone after WrestleMania. Next week, we got Drew Gulak and Baron Corbin in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Great, so now we have to live with the fact that Baron Corbin is going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. So we need to live in fear that Baron Corbin is going to become a two-time Mr. Money in the Bank. Miz versus Big E versus Jey Uso. SmackDown Live Tag Team Championships. I'm not saying that this was a bad match. This was actually a fun triple threat match, but how many fucking times do we need to see the New Day as tag team champions? WWE had their next tag team champions at their fingertips in heavy machinery. I don't understand what the point of giving the New Day the tag team championships for an 8th time is. The New Day, and let me tell you something, this pains me to say, I love Big E, I love Kofi, I love Xavier. I think all three of them, they are great at what they do. They are extremely underrated, but realistically speaking, at the end of the day, the New Day is just as bad as Charlotte Flair. What is the fucking point of even having a tag team division if you're going to give the championships back to the same team every fucking time? The New Day just lost the titles to Miz and Morrison. They lost at the Chamber. They lost at WrestleMania. Why are they getting another tag team title opportunity? And why are they getting another tag team title reign? How do you expect the tag team division to actually flourish? How do you expect anyone to get behind tag team wrestling? How do you expect the tag team championships to actually be taken seriously if they're on the same fucking team over and over and over again? How do you expect the tag team championships to actually build a legacy if you aren't going to give it to different teams and actually have certain teams hold the titles for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months? Have them have lengthy title reigns, establishing themselves as credible champions. The New Day realistically should have broken up after WrestleMania 33. New Day would be much better as singles competitors. You realize how great Big E as a heel could be in the main event scene? Kofi Kingston, he's had a Hall of Fame career himself. He could be that underdog babyface that we all know and love. Xavier Woods is the most underrated member of the New Day. Xavier Woods would be an excellent fit in the mid-card. He would be an excellent fit in the cruiserweight division. Xavier Woods could send some fucking shockwaves as a singles competitor. They're all talented competitors. But what's the fucking point of constantly giving them the tag team titles over and over again? This goes back to WWE's blatant favoritism. It's ridiculous. It's exhausting. We've seen it time and time and time again. This only devalues the tag team championships and makes them more of a prop of the New Day, more so than an actual championship title in a division. What a fucking dumb decision. Give the New Day the tag team titles again. They are not going to amount to anything with those titles, and I can only hope that either Heavy Machinery, the Forgotten Sons, someone someone new takes the titles off them. Because I cannot stand the New Day as tag team champions, nor can anyone back this decision up. And if you try and back this decision up, you are the exact fucking problem with the WWE right now. And you are the people that WWE wants. You are the people that WWE wants to constantly support the shit decisions that they make, failing to build legitimate new stars in the tag team division and in all the divisions in general, and constantly giving it back to the same people. The New Day aren't going to move the needle. Nobody's a major draw. No one's going to generate ratings. No one's going to generate the high ticket sales or the high merch sales. No one is going to generate any money that's going to shoot through the roof. There is no such thing as a singular draw nowadays. So don't give me that excuse. New Day are not going to amount to anything as the tag team champions, because we've seen it 8 times. The only tag team championship reign that the New Day have had that has actually had meaning was the 483-day reign that they had. Their second tag team championship reign. Dumb fucking decision. That's it for the weekly show reviews. We're going to move on to the news, rumors, and reports section of the LFU. For those of you wondering where Kyle O'Reilly was, Dave Meltzer came out with a report saying that Kyle O'Reilly's absence on NXT was due to the fact that he has a weak immune system due to his diabetes, and the decision to keep him off NXT was due to concerns of COVID-19, which is understandable. I can only hope Kyle O'Reilly and his family are safe during this time. Just a little side note there. According to WrestleNews.co, Jeff Hardy's video packages highlighting his major career accomplishments marked the start of a big push. The main reason for this push is because WWE doesn't want Jeff going to AEW, joining his brother Matt. So they are going to show Jeff that WWE will treat him well if he stays. Does this surprise me? Absolutely not. Why? Because WWE treated stars well because of the fear of All Elite Wrestling throughout all of 2019. They did it with half the roster throughout 2019. They did it with Balor, they did it with Joe, they did it with Asuka, they did it with Bayley, they did it with Ryder and Hawkins, they did it with the Revival. Seriously. It's not a coincidence that all those stars were treated like jack shit in 2018, and then miraculously, AEW announced that it is going to become a thing. And then at the beginning of 2019, Balor gets a match with Lesnar, 2-time Intercontinental Champion. Samoa Joe gets 2 U.S. title reigns. Asuka is SmackDown Live Women's Champion. Then she's paired with Kairi Sane. She wins the women's tag team titles by the end of the year. Then Bayley wins Money in the Bank and then cashes in to become champion. Ryder and Hawkins win the tag team titles at WrestleMania. The Revival getting not 1, not 2, but 3 tag team title reigns throughout the course of a year. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Does not surprise me whatsoever. Now listen, I want to see Jeff Hardy succeed. I want to see a lot of people succeed. Jeff Hardy is a very valuable competitor. Jeff Hardy can amount to a lot. I want to see a lot of competitors get booked better. I just hate the fact that the main reason for superstars getting pushes is because of Vince McMahon's fear of them going to All Elite Wrestling. And it just goes to show you how little Vince McMahon really values talent if your name is not Bill Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Charlotte Flair, Roman Reigns, or Alexa Bliss. Now, what could this push be? I have an idea. I have a couple of ideas. It could be a match with Sheamus, a little feud with Sheamus. But I don't really see that as much of a push. And I don't really see the reasoning for placing Sheamus and Jeff Hardy in a feud, especially since Sheamus has been undefeated since he came back, and they've really been building up Sheamus to be a force to be reckoned with in the WWE, so I really don't understand the logic of putting Sheamus against Jeff Hardy when they both need wins, so I would keep them away from one another. I can't see Jeff Hardy winning the Universal Championship, considering that that is going to go to Bray Wyatt. I can fucking hope. I can see Jeff Hardy going up against Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, considering that Daniel Bryan is busy in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I can definitely see Sami Zayn putting his Intercontinental title on the line against Jeff Hardy. I think Jeff Hardy winning the Intercontinental title would definitely open up the door for some new opportunities. Maybe we see Jeff Hardy and Bray Wyatt for the Universal Championship as an interim feud after Bray Wyatt wins the Universal title. I don't necessarily know if this push is going to result in a simple championship match or an actual championship reign. That is something that we're going to have to wait and find out, but I definitely can see Jeff Hardy winning the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn, possibly at Money in the Bank or sometime in May or June. Those are just my thoughts on that, my short little thoughts on that. According to Fightful, on April 10th, Dash Wilder, now known as Cash Wheeler, filed a new trademark for the phrase, "Fear the Revolt." And if you listen closely there, the first letters of all three words, FTR, their signature phrase there, this could pertain to the new tag team name for the Revival in their post-WWE run, which I actually have no problem with. I actually think it's a nice new little name. We'll see where it goes. But the main report here that everyone's been waiting for. The WWE releases. And let me tell you something. I gathered up as much information as I possibly could. And I made sure I did every possible. I took like 7 pages worth of notes here. So trust me, I got a lot to say. Mike Johnson of PW Insider reported on April 15th that WWE was planning a purge of talent due to the current situation happening in the world today. He stated that Vince McMahon held an emergency conference meeting to announce cutbacks and furloughs. Literally 2 hours after the news broke, WWE and multiple sources started coming out announcing the releases and or furloughing of various superstars, producers, writers, and personnel. This continued up until NXT and Dynamite went live on their respective channels. The list of terminations reads as follows. Drake Maverick, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Eric Young, EC3, Leo Rush, Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, Aiden English, Kurt Angle, Sarah Logan, Mike Chioda, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Primo Colon, Epico Colon, Maria Kanellis, Mike Kanellis, Andrea Lissenberger, who was heavily involved in writing the Otis and Mandy Rose love storyline, Rusev, Deonna Purrazzo, Alexander Jacek, Jerry Soto, MJ Jenkins, Josiah Williams, creator of Wrestling Flow, Serena Deeb, Kendo Cashin, Chris Guy, Dorian Mack, Alyssa Marino, John Quasto, Ace Steel, Scott Armstrong, Tainara, and Tino Sabatelli. It should be noted that Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reported that NXT superstars are receiving 30 days of pay and then they are free to do as they please. The list of furloughs reads as follows now. But however, this could change due to the current climate. But so far, these producers are currently furloughed. Billy Kidman, Sarah Stock, Sean Daivari, Shane Helms, Lance Storm, Mike Rotunda, and Fit Finlay. The people of social media would coin April 15th, 2020 as Black Wednesday. I feel terrible for all of the individuals that either got furloughed or released. Especially Drake, that Drake Maverick video. That Drake Maverick video absolutely broke me. And I'm not an emotional person. I don't really show much emotion, whether it be on my social media or my YouTube channel, for obvious reasons, just because I don't feel the need to, but that really broke me. That really broke me. And I don't cry over wrestling. I never cried over wrestling, but that absolutely destroyed me. That destroyed me. And you could really tell how much passion and love he has for his work. I really feel I feel bad for the people that were furloughed, because we live in such an uncertain society right now that there's no guarantee that they're even going to be hired back. I feel bad. I feel most bad for Mike Rotunda. I feel bad for the entire Rotunda family. The Rotunda family's been treated like jack shit from WWE. It really does suck, and it really does show you that WWE hoarded talent. It really does show you that WWE hoarded talent. And I'm going to go in depth about that in just a little bit, because I'm not done reporting what I have to report as far as this issue goes. A lot of individuals were calling this a necessity. However, Dave Meltzer came out on Twitter calling out a person saying that the releases were necessary. Meltzer responded to this person by quote tweeting their tweet and saying, and I quote, "They didn't have to. They have 500 million cash reserves and giant TV deals. They chose to. If they were losing money, it would be very different. This is not a restaurant with no cash reserves, not being able to keep its waiters / chiefs / waitresses," end quote. So right then and there, the necessity argument was debunked by a lot of people. And apparently, all of these cuts that WWE apparently made only saved them about $4 million, which is the amount that they paid Goldberg for Super Showdown and WrestleMania. This is a product of Vince McMahon's selfishness at the end of the day. This is a product of Vince McMahon's selfishness at the end of the day, and if they really had these 5 million cash reserves and giant TV deals, on top of that, the deal for Fox was about $1.2 billion, if I'm not mistaken. $4 million is literally next to nothing. If they weren't losing money and they're still making record profits, over the course of the next however many months, then this was completely unnecessary. You really couldn't have cut down the pay of certain superstars. This is what happens when you sign individuals to contracts that are worth $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. This is what happens when you spend $5 million, $6 million, $7 million to The Undertaker, to Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg for 3 fucking appearances a year. WWE put themselves in this situation. And you know, it really does showcase to you how much of a fucking slimeball Vince McMahon really is. After what he did on Monday, having Linda McMahon pay the governor of Florida $18.5 million just to have WWE deem their business essential. Because I don't care who the fuck you are. Wrestling is not an essential business. Please do not give me that bullshit. It really does make me think that Vince McMahon was scared. Vince McMahon was scared, and Vince McMahon didn't want to talk to the executives of USA and Fox about possibly cutting down on the amount of live shows that they had for the month of May and June. It really does make me question. The entire thing. I don't really know what to tell you as far as that goes. If they had $5 million worth of cash reserves, you could have reduced the pay of some of these contracts. You didn't have to terminate superstars immediately. You could have at least talked things out with the executives of USA and Fox, made things a little bit safer for the superstars. That's another story for another time, though. But a company's main issue would always be to protect its employees. And it just goes to show you that Vince McMahon does not care about anyone else but his business. And I understand the argument of the shareholders and the stockholders, and Vince McMahon needed to do something to showcase that he is trying to manage his business to the best of his abilities, but he could have done that a lot better rather than just terminating or furloughing individuals. Now, WWE recently came out with a statement on Thursday regarding the releases and furloughs and where they financially stand. And I wrote down the entire statement. So the statement reads as follows, and I quote, WWE today talking about Thursday, provided an update on measures taken by the company in response to the current impact of COVID-19 on the organization. Due to COVID-19 and current government-mandated impacts on WWE and the media business generally, the company went through an extensive evaluation of its operations over the past several weeks. This analysis resulted in the implementation of various short-term reductions and cash flow impairment actions, including reducing executive and board member compensation, decreasing operating expenses, cutting talent expenses, third-party staffing and consulting, deferring spend on the build-out of the company's new headquarters for at least 6 months. Given the uncertainty of the situation, the company also identified headcount reductions and made the decision to furlough a portion of its workforce immediately. The decision to furlough versus permanently reduce headcount reflects the fact that the company currently believes the furlough will be temporary in nature. The company's reductions of employee compensation and headcount resulted in an estimated monthly savings of $4 million, along with cash flow improvement of $140 million, primarily from the deferral in spending on the company's new headquarters. Additionally, the company has sustainable financial resources, both available cash and debt capacity, which currently total approximately $0.5 billion, to manage the challenges ahead. Management continues to believe the fundamentals of the company's business remain strong, and the WWE is well positioned to take full advantage of the changing media landscape and increasing value of live sports rights over the longer term. The company will provide further details when it reports its first quarter 2020 results next Thursday, April 23rd, after the close of the market, end quote. And apparently some people took this report saying that, oh, look, they didn't have $5 million worth of cash reserves. It was necessary. I didn't see anything in this report implying that they didn't have $5 million worth of cash reserves. I didn't see any implication saying that it was a necessity to fire 30 to 40 people. And I didn't see any source coming out debunking Dave Meltzer's statement. So where's the concrete information stating that they didn't have $5 million worth of cash reserves, that these television deals couldn't have afforded to pay everyone? And where's the theory? Where's this theory that they didn't have all the necessary resources to not fire these individuals? You telling me you could not have reduced pay? Just for the time being, at least? Vince McMahon, it seems as though he's doing the same fucking thing that all the other businesses are doing. Throwing money at a problem and expecting shit to be solved. And that's why they were in this current situation. Whether they had the cash reserves or not, WWE at the end of the day, responsible for their own downfall in this scenario. Now, I don't want to be completely negative about it. I don't want to completely rant and rave on it, because there are some positives to come out of this. And there are a lot of different opportunities for a lot of different superstars to seek work elsewhere. And I truthfully hope that they all find another place to financially support themselves. But I needed to write this down because Seth Rollins, yes, Seth Rollins can't seem to keep his fucking mouth shut. I swear to God, it's like nobody can say anything bad about the WWE, or else the negativity police, Seth Rollins, comes in. Every single time. I said, this guy has been making himself look like an idiot for the last year. Even with this new character that he's been playing, which has been excellent, he cannot seem to keep his mouth shut. It's like his mouth is gorilla glued to the WWE dick. So during all of this chaos, Seth Rollins took to Instagram Live to address the situation and expressed his disappointment for the hate and hostility towards WWE. So we're going to break down everything that he said right now. So he began by saying, the one thing that I am seeing that is upsetting to me is the negativity and hostility toward WWE. This is a different day for everyone, for all of us, and I think if there ever was a moment for us to unify, for us to kind of band together and do the best we can to keep this business alive, the best we know how, this is that moment. Okay, let me stop there. Keep the business alive. Rollins, why are you acting as if the WWE is going under? Keep the business alive. Your business is just fine, Colby. Can I call you Colby? Your business is just fine. The WWE's been around for 60 plus years. Nothing has put them out of business. WCW didn't put them out of business. The shitty period that they were in before WCW came around, the kiddie period that they were in, that didn't put them out of business. AEW's not going to put them out of business. Nothing's going to put them out of business. Your business is going to be fine. Keep the business alive. What about the countless amount of promotions and businesses that the person that you work for hurt from hoarding the talent? What about the businesses across the globe that Vince McMahon has been trying to monopolize because he wants to be the end-all be-all for the pro wrestling industry? He wants to be at the center, the epicenter of it all, and he wants all the revenue and all the money from all the promotions across the world to flow directly into his pockets. He wants to micromanage everything, not just in the WWE. He wants to micromanage the entire wrestling landscape. They own a couple of promotions in Europe. There's been ramblings and rumors of an NXT Japan coming in. Yeah, you're going to compete with New Japan Pro Wrestling in the Far East, right, Vince? I love NXT UK. Trust me, I think it's one of the most underrated wrestling brands in the world. But was it necessary? No. You're talking about keeping the business alive. Meanwhile, the boss that you work for has been trying to kill other promotions and businesses from signing these talent and hoarding them away in catering and only utilizing them to job out to the major stars in his company that were manufacturally created in 3 minutes. Keep the business alive. Meanwhile, you're working for someone who wants to monopolize the business. Meanwhile, he doesn't even realize that without these independent promotions, there would be no talent for him to scout. You take a look at Tony Khan, and he willingly allowed Chris Statlander to fulfill her duties as an independent wrestler, while still working for AEW, and then he gave her a women's championship match next week so she could fulfill her duties for AEW. Tony Khan wants the industry and the business to thrive. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon and WWE act like they're the only wrestling promotion on the planet. Vince McMahon does not want anyone else to succeed, and he does not want anyone else to flourish in the same area that he is working in unless it's on his terms, unless it's under his watchful eye. Negativity and hostility towards WWE, they brought this on themselves. Keep the business alive. Fuck off, dude. He continued by saying, I think pointing fingers or saying, you should have done this, you should have done that is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the time or the place for it. I think this is a day for compassion and empathy and understanding and to try to support each other, to pick each other up. That's for everyone, not just to say the guys and girls that were let go. Compassion, empathy, and understanding. Did Vince McMahon have compassion, empathy, and understanding when he released 30 to 40 plus of his employees out of nowhere after he just got the WWE deemed essential? His wife bribed the state of Florida to deem their business essential? Did he show compassion, empathy, and understanding when the majority of the roster didn't even want to work and they wanted WrestleMania to be postponed? They wanted to be with their families. Did he show compassion, empathy, and understanding then? Doesn't feel like the time or place. Abso-fucking-lutely it does. Abso-fucking-lutely it does. I swear to God, he's becoming more and more like Vince McMahon, blinded by the money and dancing around the actual problem. Why? Because he's scared. Vince McMahon has clipped this guy's nuts right off of his sack and stored him away in a drawer in his desk in Stanford. Doesn't feel like the time or place. Compassion, empathy, and understanding. What a fucking hypocrite. Meanwhile, you are working for the most incompassionate fuck in the pro wrestling industry. And possibly one of the most incompassionate people on the face of this planet. Compassion, empathy, and understanding. Meanwhile, the person that started this, he was the one that lacked compassion, empathy, and understanding for his employees. He continued on. For all of us who are fortunate at this moment, still be able to, have a position where we can collect a paycheck and support those around us and those who love us, I think we have to take it upon ourselves to, work harder to make sure that there's a place for all those who have had it worse today to come back to. I think as a planet, we should rally around the idea that this is only temporary, and those who lost their positions and are struggling to figure out what to do next, that they'll be able to make it back from this. Whether that's with WWE or another organization or a completely new field, this isn't the end, and if we can start fighting, if we start fighting amongst ourselves, it only makes it worse. So I encourage you to try to come together over this and to try to unify. Now, if he would have just said those last two paragraphs and kept his fucking mouth shut, I would have had a lot more respect for him, and he wouldn't be in some deep shit that he's in with the crowd on social media right now. But of course, he needed to say the first two paragraphs that I already stated. If he would have just said those last two paragraphs, I wouldn't have had to say anything. I'm all for bonding, I'm all for positivity, I'm all for gathering up everything and showing sympathy, but at the end of the day, WWE is to blame. Vince McMahon is to blame. And Seth Rollins dancing around the issue and can't admit the fact that he works for a tyrannical, greedy egomaniac. This monopolization mentality of Vince McMahon after this pandemic is over needs to end. Someone needs to sit down with the guy, I don't care who, someone needs to sit down with the guy and actually talk with this guy. If you're not going to utilize talent to their fullest, do not sign them. Do not sign talent if you are going to keep them in catering for God knows how long. Look at some of the talent. Look at some of the talent that they've had. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows came in April and completely wasted in 6 months. 2 meaningless tag team title reigns that nobody even remembers. No one ever gave a shit about them. They barely even got the proper opportunity and the proper booking to succeed. Lio Rush wasn't even utilized to his fullest until the last 6 months of his WWE career. Came in NXT, had an issue on social media where his tweet about Emma was blown out of proportion. He was on 205 Live. They had some decent material with them there. Then he was placed on Monday Night Raw with Bobby Lashley, which ultimately devalued Lio Rush more so than it helped Bobby Lashley. And then he went away because he had backstage heat. And then he came back, won the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, and that was his peak. Now he's released. What about guys like EC3, who was never even given the proper opportunity? Called up from NXT way too soon. He beat Jon Moxley, and then he was buried. By guys like Strowman, guys like Cedric Alexander fighting him on main event. Deonna Purrazzo. I remember seeing Deonna Purrazzo at a Hasbro Kites event in New Jersey. And then I saw her over 2 years later wrestle on the pre-show for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. And I was so proud of her, and I was wondering, man, I can't wait to see where she goes. Barely even given an opportunity up until the last 3 months. Released. Rusev and Aiden English. Do we even need to say anything about Rusev and Aiden English? Should have been tag team champions by WrestleMania 34. Rusev, after he lost the United States Championship to Roman Reigns the second time around, he got injured, went away, and then he came back with this Rusev Day gimmick with Aiden English. And it was the hottest thing in WWE at that time. And WWE didn't go forth with it. Why? Because it wasn't in their plans. Wasted Rusev, wasted Aiden. The list goes on and on. This needs to serve as a lesson going forward for the greater good of WWE's business and the greater good of the lives of the people that they hire. you're not going to sign individuals and you're not going to utilize them, don't sign them. I don't want to be completely negative. I don't want to be completely down about the entire situation, because a lot of the releases can be looked at as good things because it gives them more opportunities to go out there and really make names for themselves in other promotions. Carl Anderson was even promoting himself as the Machine Gun again. Luke Gallows could follow. They could go back to Japan, make shockwaves in Japan again as the Bullet Club. I wouldn't mind that. I could definitely see Lio Rush going to All Elite Wrestling. I think that he would fit very well there. Mike and Maria Kanellis, I can definitely see them going to NWA. I can definitely see Aiden English making some shockwaves in NWA as well. Rusev, he can go to either New Japan. I think Rusev in the G1 Climax would be something to remember. He could go there. He could go to All Elite Wrestling. We could have Deonna Purrazzo getting the call from Kenny Omega to go to the AEW, and she can make some shockwaves in the women's division. She could go to NWA as well. You never know. You never know. I can definitely see a team like Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder possibly going to NWA. They could go to NWA. They could possibly tour the independent scene. Maybe MLW. MLW, they definitely need some hot new prospects. We could see some individuals in MLW. We'll see what happens, but I would like to remain positive, and I would like to think that a lot of those individuals, like EC3 and Drake Maverick, I can see them going to Impact. I can see them going back to Impact. I can see them being that unit that they were so many years ago in Impact. It's definitely going to be an interesting scenario over the course of the next 6 months where these superstars go, but all I hope for is that they do find work, and I definitely hope that WWE does take this as a lesson. Please. That's all I'm asking. But ladies and gentlemen, stacked edition of the LFU. That wraps up this edition of it. My voice is shot. I need to go eat some lunch. You guys already know the drill. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. I'll have Quarantine with Thunder episode 4 for you guys up on Wednesday. And of course, Dark Side of the Ring review on Thursday. I haven't really been keeping track up to date. I don't know which one they have next week. I'll probably find out as the day goes on. But regardless, I'm DJ Storms. This has been the Lightning Flash Update. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe.